Beilligipo드 is one of the innovation of the Bailey company concentrated. So what's your definition of the innovation of an innovative company?
Again, I'm going to point you to the slide on the screen here, which shows the innovation that is prevalent right across the long-term global growth portfolio. And this Euler diagram shows the most innovative areas that we think are relevant today as long-term investors and the companies that are really pioneering this innovation. We believe that there are many deep-rooted structural transformations that are taking place today that are highly unlikely to be uprooted or disrupted by the government of the day, by tariffs, by inflation, by interest rates. These transformations are taking place at such a deep-rooted level that we think that they will be for the portfolio over the long term. And this leaves us really excited as long-term investors. And you can see that innovation in many different areas, from healthcare to finance to artificial intelligence. We're just in the early stages of how artificial intelligence is becoming relevant to all of the companies actually that you can see on this portfolio.
So a company with high growth expectation, like in AI industry or you said healthcare and like that, usually their valuation is very high rather than peer or the market average, right? So that is some kind of tension between the valuation, the companies, and the high growth expectation. How do you see the tension between this valuation and high growth?
So we think incredibly carefully about valuation. As I said, within long-term global growth, we are seeking extreme outliers, companies that can quintuple over our holding period of 5 to 10 years. And valuation plays an incredibly important role in our assessment of a company's ability to be able to achieve that outlier status. Valuation is interwoven in all of our 10 questions that we ask of companies, that 10-question framework, and their ability to be able to deliver that growth potential that we see within the company. It's explicit in the question 9 and 10 of our research framework, but it's absolutely interwoven into all of the other questions that we ask of companies.
Thank you so much for all your questions answered about Ltgg. It's a very optimistic, long-term global growth fund. And I would like to know about the examples of the growth scenarios on the companies that you early invested in, despite the market situations being very negative.
There's a lot of noise at the moment in markets, and one of the first things that Mark Urquhart, the founder of the strategy, did following Liberation Day at the beginning of April was he sat the team down in their weekly breakfast. He reassured them, made sure that everybody was coping with the volatility okay. But the second thing that he did was he reminded the team that these periods of volatility can create huge opportunity. We have been discussing a number of very exciting companies that could potentially be included in the long-term global growth strategy in the future as we're seeking to take advantage of the opportunities that are arising from this volatility.
Yeah, that's really good to know, especially, and it's, Ltgg strategy has a very consistency in its philosophy and investment strategy. I think it aligns very well with our Shenyang Securities and Shenyang Asset Management's culture as well. So I think Mr. Huang has his final question.
Korea investment, they invest a lot of ETFs, following the S&P and the Nasdaq. Beilligipo드 Ltgg fund in contrary side of the Korean current investment trend. What do you think is strengths of the Beilligipod's concentrated long-term investments?
Yeah, so I think that we couldn't be more different to the index if we tried. We really ignore the index and we try hard not to look at it. But when we do look at the index, we can't help but notice that it resembles a little bit of a bodybuilder at the moment that's spent a bit too much time on its upper half at the expense of its legs. And so the upper half is probably a bit too dominant with very puny underpinnings. When we think about the index today, there's many companies that are really ripe for disruption. That's across many industries, from finance, healthcare, to traditional energy or auto stocks. Within long-term global growth, we are hugely excited by the growth potential within the strategy today.
네, 지금까지 베일리기포드의 Ltgg 스페셜리스트 다이아나를 모시고 베일리기포드의 대표적인 전략인 롱텀 글로벌 그로스 전략의 투자 철학과 운용 방식에 대해서 살펴보는 시간을 가졌습니다. 저희 신영자산운용에서 운영하고 있는 신영 베일리기포드 글로벌 그로스 펀드를 통해서 만나보실 수 있는데요. 여러분들의 투자에 도움이 되는 영상이었기를 기원합니다.